it's Johara. Welcome back to my channel, to the Witchy Reader. So I'm going to do top 10 Halloween book recommendations because this time of month. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure I did a similar video last year, and I may say some of the same books. I don't remember what books I had suggested that last year, but I know some of these I did not say last year because some of these are new to me, or some of these I haven't actually even read yet. I just know enough about them, and I know that they definitely fall under the category of Halloween-y. So yeah, I'm just gonna start by recommending probably the only book here that actually is around Halloween. I mean, all of these have Halloween elements, or I feel like most fantasy books, not all, but most, could definitely fall into the category of Halloween just because of, fantasy elements like witches and stuff. Those are also Halloween elements. Fantasy and Halloween have a lot of the same elements that could go together. But I'm pretty sure this is the only book that's based around Halloween. I don't know. One of them might have Halloween. Actually, no, I don't think it does. But yeah, this is the only one that is actually based around Halloween, which is Hoax Focus and the all-new sequel, obviously. I've been watching too much Riverdale. Cheryl is corrupting me. Okay. So you all probably know Hoax Focus by now because, the movie is a classic. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that Hoax Focus is also a book. The beginning is just like the movie. It's like seriously just like the movie, except for a couple scenes the book added, but less than halfway what happened, everything that happened in the movie is over, and it's 25 years later. And the majority of the book is about Max and Allison's daughter Poppy, who is a lot like Max in the sense that she doesn't believe in this stuff, even though Max and Allison tells her what happened, and Danny, they all told her what happened several times, but she doesn't believe it. And only one person knows about her family secrets, which is her best friend Travis. But the two of them, along with Poppy's crush Isabella, and her frenemy Katie, who's also the daughter of, I think his name is Jay, one of the guys that bullied Max in the movie and the beginning of the book. I think he's the one with the blonde hair. They all end up having to work together to stop the witches, but the stakes are a lot higher for them than it was for Max and Allison, because they used a different spell to bring the witches back. It wasn't, lighting the black flame candle. They used an actual spell. And they ended up, they freed the witches from hell, but it only works if someone takes their place. So the three of them get freed and are replaced by Max, Allison, and Danny. So she has to save her family and the world, because the witches are also trying to bring back other witches, which means every witch they bring back, another person is sent to hell. But they do have other forces on their side, because Binks comes back as a ghost because he's no longer a cat, and his sister comes back, Emily, and the fourth Sanderson sister, because there apparently is a fourth one, Elizabeth, who's a good witch, comes back as a ghost to help them as well. But the stakes are higher than ever for Poppy, Travis, Isabella, and Katie. But one thing I love is Poppy and Isabella's relationship, because they didn't really make a big deal about, a girl and girl relationship like a lot of things do. They normalized it, which is what I love. And Travis makes a slight comment at Poppy about her crush coming towards her, and her crush was Isabella, a girl, and that was there, and so they left it at that. And the entire book is just besides the whole, trying to stop the witches, is about Poppy um, it's just like a normal crush. They treat it like a normal high school crush, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, so this is definitely the most Halloweeny book, and I definitely highly recommend it because I feel like it's so underrated, and I'm so scared for the second movie that they are making because I'm terrified that they're not going to go by the book and going to make their own storyline, and I don't want that because I love the book so much. I think I like the sequel more than the original movie. It's just so good. Okay, one book down. I chose several books because I couldn't help myself. So Harry Potter, obviously, because witches and wizards. I don't think I even have to explain Harry Potter because most people just know what it's about. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Harry Potter, because Harry Potter is the best. And I also chose. This is the 5th book in the series. This is the first one I saw, so I just grabbed it. But there's 6 books in the series. Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, which is, I consider, the unofficial Harry Potter spin-off because Nicholas Flamel is mentioned in the first book a few times because, you know, he's the one that created Sorcerer's Stone, this and that. But these are his tales about him, his wife, Sophie and Josh, who are the chosen ones or whatever. And then there's I absolutely, I can't speak today. Absolutely, I'm done. I absolutely love his wife Perenelle. I mean, I love one thing I love about this is the fact that they constantly talk about how Perenelle's more powerful than Nicholas, and even Nicholas will flat out say that Perenelle's more powerful than him, and he doesn't have any stupid male pride, be like, I want to be more powerful. He respects his wife and is okay with her being more powerful because he doesn't care about that, and he loves his wife, and I absolutely love that. Their relationship is so cute. But I also love Scathatch, who is a vampire and is amazing. I also love Joan of Arc because that's one thing that they did. They brought back characters from history that apparently never actually died, like Joan of Arc, William Shakespeare, and I kind of like that they did that. But yeah, so I definitely love this series, and I plan, and I had started rereading it, but then I stopped, and I want to continue rereading it. I'm on book 3, so I definitely highly recommend it if you want to get to know more about Nicholas Flamel. Okay, I'm gonna. I have so many books here. Which one to do next? Here, this one. This is, I think, the 3rd book. Yeah, the 3rd book in the series. There's 4 books. Raw and Ruin. I only read it once when I was in high school. I was 17, I think, and I liked it a lot. I finally bought it because I want to reread it and hopefully still like it because I did like it back then, and I did love some of the characters. I loved Nyx. She was my favorite character. I hope she still is because I hope I still love her as much as I did then. And I never really, before I bought Raw and Ruin, I never really owned a book like this. Only 2 of them does this because I bought 2 of them in hardback and 2 of them in paperback. So the hardcovers obviously don't, but the 2 paperbacks, which is I think this one and the first one, does this. I don't know. I've never liked a book like I didn't even know this was actually a thing before. But I don't know. At one point it's annoying, but at the second point it's kind of cool to see the zombie hand. But yeah, yeah, and then the first book does the whole eye, and then it shows the eye all different and scary looking. And I'm sure the 2nd and 4th book would do that too if I bought it like that, but I didn't. I bought their hardcover covers. Anyways, it's basically about a zombie who, or not a zombie, but like this is like post-apocalyptic, so the apocalypse has already been going on for quite some time, and if you don't get a job at a certain age, I think the age of 16, then you have to go on and fight zombies. And Benny couldn't find a job, so he ends up apprenticing with his older brother Tommy, who does fight zombies. And for some, I don't know why, I don't remember, but for some reason he thought it would be boring, but turned out it wasn't all that he thought it would be. And So yeah, that's kind of what it's about from what I remember. That's just the premise of the book, but I can't wait to actually reread this and see if it still holds up to me now as it did when I was 17. Here I have The Legend of Shadow High. It wasn't actually that bad of a book. It was a little disappointing because I didn't realize going into it that the Monster High aspect, because it's a crossover between Monster High and Ever After High, because Monster High, they were going to make a movie, I think, of a crossover, at least that's what it looked like, because at the end of Boo York, there was a post-credit scene where one of the new characters that was just introduced in that movie, ended up calling Raven Apple, telling them that this Monster World was real. But they never ended up doing that because Monster High got a reboot and Ever After High got cancelled. So that never happened. But they did make a book form. The same Shannon Hale and Dean Hale. And Shannon Hale was actually the author of the Ever After High series that I told you I love the third book of. But I was vastly disappointed. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were still things I like. As you can see, I tapped it. And they did have the scene I liked where you could write your ending. Like, they gave you a few different endings of who could be the one to beat the evil queen. But the one person they didn't have an option for Draculaura to be the one to beat her, so I ended up writing my own ending where Draculaura won because Draculaura is the best. But yeah, anyways, moving back to what I was saying, the thing that disappointed me so much about this book was the fact that the Monster High aspect of it was from the reboot Monster High, not the original, which made me really sad because the reboot isn't that great, let's be honest. I think the only thing that I liked about the reboot was the fact that they made Draculaura a main character alongside Frankie, because it was kind of about her. It started off with her and her life, and unlike the original that started off with Frankie, and I'm not a fan of Frankie, but I love that they kind of surrounded the reboot around Draculaura a little bit more. The sequel did go back to surrounding around Frankie a little, which made me sad, but yeah, so. But other than that, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I liked Draculaura and Raven's little friendship they had going there. But yeah. Shadow and Chronicles. There's 3 books so far. She's currently Nancy Ann is currently making the 4th one, and the first book is Maeve, obviously. Second book is Matthew. Third book is Justin. And then the 4th book, I actually know the author, sort of, and I talked to her, and she said the 4th book will be Mariel, which is Matthew's wife, right? Yeah, okay. There's so many characters, it's hard to keep track sometimes. But yeah, that's Matthew's wife and Justin's biological mother, because he was adopted. But, Maeve is kind of a dark, but I like it. And Maeve, at the very beginning, Maeve turned into a vampire, and Hunter, her husband, turns on her and takes their son because he thought that she, his wife was gone. She was just a vampire now, and a soulless thing. But that's not true. She still had her soul, unlike most vampires, because she wasn't a human when she was turned. She was a fairy, and that fairy aspect kept her from turning all the way evil, even though she did have a darkness. So that was an interesting aspect to vampires, but I kind of liked it. And yeah, so I will warn you that there is some time jumps, which is a little confusing at the beginning, but you get used to it, and it's a really good book. I think I rated it 5 stars. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. It's a self-published book too, so you can find it on Amazon. This is also a self-published book. this is the second book, and there's only 2 so far. I think they're working on the 4th book, and I think she told me, because I also kind of talked to the authors for this one, because the authors are Nemu and Rebecca. But I think they said that the 3rd book was with the editor or something. I don't know, but it should be published soon. And then I think they're working on book 4. But the first book is about Astra. After this huge war, she's the only one that believes that the villain from the war, Tyron, was alive, and she was kind of having PTSD because she was also kidnapped for a long time, and held prisoner and tortured. But so she's dealing with all that, and she also has magic that is she's having trouble controlling at the moment. So she ends up getting exiled, and she, from her kingdom, she has to go to Luco's kingdom, who she does not like, and he does not like her, to research to find out if Tyron really is alive. But the 2 of them form this really strong bond and friendship, and I am in love with that. I love the 2 of them so much. And sadly, I don't think the second book has Astra and Loco, because it's still in the same universe. But from what I hear, they do make a comeback in the 3rd book, because I guess the 2nd book is about something else. I'm not 100% sure. But I plan on finally reading it this month as part of my Must High Readathon TBR. Same with the 3rd book of the Shadow Realm Chronicles. But yeah. But it was really good, and I rated it 5 stars. The first book, I haven't read this one yet, obviously, but it was so good. And Luco gets abused by his father, and it makes me so sad. And so yeah, there's a little dark theme, so beware of that if you're not comfortable with, abuse or PTSD, because they do show that. But yeah, so I definitely highly recommend it. This is also available on Amazon. And they may be available in hard copy now. I'm not 100% sure, since Amazon does have a hard copy now, but I don't know if they ever, publish them through hard copy. Same with Nancy Ann and Shadow Realm Chronicles. I should look that up because I'm curious now. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I haven't watched the TV show yet. I'm waiting until I'm done with the entire Grishaverse. I'm almost done, sort of. Or actually, no, I'm not. I'm still reading the original trilogy. But but the 3rd book is on my Monster High Readathon TBR, so I hope to get to that this month. We'll see if that actually works out. But my friend Jessica at Lady Loves That Reads, go follow and subscribe if you have not yet. But we are going to be doing a buddy read of Six of Crows and Kingdom of Scars once I finish Shadow and Bone. And we were talking about doing a live show on both of our channels. Do a live show for both duologies, one on my channel, one on hers. So look for that. And yeah, but I rated the first book 5 stars. At first, I thought I was gonna end up being 4 stars because I did enjoy it, but not as much as a few other things. But the ending had me so excited and so into, and the next thing I knew, it turned into a 5-star read. 4th book, I'm not sure yet. That one may end up being 4 stars just because a little bit more slow. Actually, the beginning of this one was slow though, so that one might pick up as well. We'll see. But yeah, and I do overall enjoy this trilogy, and I do recommend it. I think it's gone pretty popular on BookTube because of the TV show that came out of it, and I just want to finish all the Grisha first before I watch the TV show. So this stack is gonna get too big for me. So here is Skinjacker Trilogy. I've talked about it by Neil Schusterman. I know his one series. His one, I think, is a trilogy. Scythe. I think that's supposed to be dystopian. I don't know, but from by Neil Schusterman has gotten so popular. But this one is just so underrated and makes me sad because I absolutely love this trilogy. at the very beginning, Allie and Nick, who do not know each other, are in 2 different cars when the 2 cars crash, and boom, they're dead. That's the very first chapter, so it's kind of a great beginning, because you're like, wait a minute, how could the 2 main characters die? What? But, because the whole point of it is the fact that they are dead. They're stuck in Everlost, which is the place in between life and death, basically. It's kind of their purgatory, I guess you can say, for people with unfinished business or skinjackers. Skinjackers, like Allie, spoiler for this part, because it was kind of a plot twist to find out. But Allie is a skinjacker, and not all these ghosts can skinjack, but she can, and a few other people can, because skinjackers can only skinjack because they're not actually dead. They're in comas. So you find out that Nick died right away, but Allie survived, barely. She's in a coma, and every skinjacker is in comas. Because that's why they can skinjack. They still have skinjacking is basically possessing of the living, and they can skinjack because they still have a hold onto the living, unlike Nick and other people in Everlost, you know. But yeah, it's really good, and then they end up having to defeat the McGill, who's evil, but Allie ends up getting feelings for him, and he ends up getting feelings for her because it's an enemies to lovers, and I devour that. But then in the second book, they have to Allie's trying to get home to see if her family's okay, because her dad was in the car and she had no idea if he was alive. Nick was too busy trying to uncover this conspiracy, and then Allie and Nick do find each other on the same side of the war again, because they are on a war against Mary Hightower, who I loathe. I hate her so much more than Umbridge, and I didn't think that was possible until I read this trilogy, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because I just hate Mary Hightower so much. But yeah, so they have to work together to defeat Mary. I mean, Nick is trying to defeat Mary while Allie's trying to defeat Milos, who ends up at some point getting on the same side as Mary. So yeah. Here is the Effigies Trilogy, which is about 4 girls. Well, it's mostly about the one girl, but they all have the power to control a different element, the 4 elements. And the main girl, Maya, just found out she's the next fire effigy, which she loved the effigies, but she never wanted to be one, and now she is. And her life turns upside down, and it's bad enough because her life was already really sad, because her parents and twin sister had just perished recently in a fire, and she survived, and now she's living with her uncle. But there are some pretty good plot twists. I love the plot twist at the end of book 2, I think it was. Yeah, but Maya and I love the relationship between Maya and Aiden. They get really close, and he's really the only one she really trusts at the beginning. And this also has one of the most cinnamon roll characters you will ever meet, Victoria, aka Lake. She is just such a sweetheart, and she has anxiety as well, so beware of that. And if you want to feel represented, then there you go, Victoria. She's a sweetheart, and I absolutely love her. She's the wind effigy. I do not like Belle, who is the water effigy. And then Che-Rin is meh. I mean, I like her at times, but the other times she's a little annoying. She's the earth effigy. But yeah. So, and the effigies usually work together, but then when Maya appears as the next fire effigy, this mysterious guy Saul, who can all of a sudden control phantoms, because phantoms are what effigies are supposed to protect the people from. And all of a sudden he comes and he can control effigies, and not to mention the sect who the effigies work for is corrupted because of some of the people in it. And yeah, there's just one conspiracy after another, and it's really good, so I highly recommend it. And there's magic, so Halloweeny. Yeah, this stack is probably getting too big. Oh well. Okay, I'm gonna move some of it. Okay. There. Riverdale. I was at Barnes & Noble when I was in Florida with my sister. We were having a day off, just the two of us. And, I found this, and I didn't know it was a book, but then I found out that it's actually the third in the series, because apparently there's 5 books, and I didn't even know there was one. But, yeah, and I'm all intrigued to find out what the book's about, because I know that they're comics and everything, and I love the series. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I was binging Riverdale recently, rewatching it. But I'm really intrigued, I guess you can say, to find out what the books are about, because I love Riverdale and I do love a good mystery. Obviously not as much as fantasy, but mystery, and fact that the titles, the Maple Murders, there's gonna be murder, and what's more Halloween than murder? Yes, I just said that. Here's another mystery, which I have not read either yet. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I actually didn't want to read this at first, mostly because, like, you guys probably know by now, I'm mostly into fantasy, but it sounds kind of interesting, and I do not own the second one yet, but I do plan on getting it. But basically, apparently there's this, old, like, this mystery, or I guess it's not technically a mystery anymore, but, years ago, this girl was murdered by her boyfriend. This high school senior, Andy Bell, was murdered by her boyfriend, Salsine, and then he ended up killing himself, and, so this is 5 years later, and, Pip, for her senior project, decides to investigate it because it was all a little too clean, if you asked her, so she decided to, try to prove Sal's innocent, and then, from what I hear, she, digging for answers, someone even sends her threats to stop, which, why would you do that? All you're doing is telling her that she's onto something, and no one stops if they actually think they're onto something. What's wrong with you people? This is why you never get away with it, because you're stupid. I'm done with that rant. But apparently it puts her own life in danger because she won't stop digging for answers. So yeah, sounds intriguing. And there's even a second book, Good Girl, Bad Blood. So yeah, I'm intrigued to finally read it. I'm not going to read it until I buy the second book, though, because if I do end up falling in love with this book, then I don't want to wait for the second book. Or at least buy the second book while I'm reading the first one, then it'll get here by the time I'm done with the first one. Either way. And then I have Final Girls, by Riley Sager. I haven't read this one yet either, but, basically, apparently, it's about, a bunch of final girls. You know those, like, they talk about final girls in horror movies, like Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, even though she did end up dying in the third movie, she was the final girl of the first movie. And then, Sydney from the Scream movie, she remains to be the final girl. Those are the two I'm obviously gonna think of. But, apparently there's this group of final girls, and, all of a sudden one of them dies, and I guess they're getting picked off one by one, because someone, I guess, wants to kill the girls that survived, which is a little messed up if you ask me, but fun. So, I love horror movies, and even though I haven't really read any horror books, I really want to, because I love horror, and I love spooky and scary things, and the more blood, the better. Yes, I'm weird. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what this book is like. It's like 500 pages, I think. 400 something. 452. But yeah, can't wait to read this. I have 2 more books, so we're almost done. Monster High. This is the 4th book, but I grabbed the first one I saw. Because monsters, duh. And I've also been in a huge Monster High mood with this whole Monster High readathon I'm doing. I plan on binging the movies and play my Wii U video game. And I have a huge Monster High poster. I have a Monster High lunchbox, Monster High thermos, and Monster High body wash and shampoo, conditioner, and lotion. Because I got into a real Monster High mood and I just bought everything I could. But I want to read by the dolls. I still have Twyla's diary from my old Twyla doll. But yeah, so I even bought Twizzlers because that's my movie snack since I don't like popcorn, and I'm so excited to have binged the Monster High movies again for the millionth time in my life. But I'm a little obsessed. But I absolutely love both of the book series as well. The other one I like a little bit more, but I'll get into that in a minute. But this one is a little bit different because Monster High doesn't exist. It's just these monsters have to try to pretend to be normies because normies aren't ready to learn the truth about monsters. But Frankie can't leave well enough alone and wants to try to change things, and it doesn't exactly work out in her favor at first, and people freak out. And then the monsters realize that they can't keep hiding forever, so Frankie and her friends fight to make monsters equal, and so monsters don't have to be feared for their life by normies. And Melody is a human girl who just moved there, and she falls for Jackson, who is who's half normie, half monster, and she ends up fighting for the monsters because she's always been different. And later on, you find out that she was adopted and is actually a monster as well, or a siren. So she looks normie but has monster in her, or something like that. But yeah, so they all have to work together to fight for monster rights, and it's a good series. There's only 4 books, but I like it. And then the last book on my list is Monster High Ghoul Friends. This is the 3rd book. It's the first one I saw, so I just grabbed it. There's 4 books in this one as well, and they did leave off for the potential of the 5th book because the villains did get away, and they also talked about finally finding Rebecca's dad because he might actually not be dead. But they never did end up making the 5th book, which made me really sad because I wanted the 5th book. I wanted to see what else happened. I kind of wanted to see the ghouls fight the villains again because I wanted to see the villains come back and try to stop these 3 ghouls inside for stopping them, because it's always the 4 of them doing it, and then them having to stop them. I really wanted that, but I don't think I'll ever get it at this point, and it makes me sad. Maybe I'll make a fan fiction about it on Wattpad. We'll see. Basically all 3 ghouls are new to Monster High. I don't know why Venus is new, because she wasn't new in the movies, or at least maybe she's not new, but it's just a new semester. All I know is that Rochelle and Rebecca definitely were new to the school. Rochelle had just transferred, and Rebecca had just been reassembled after being disassembled for like a century. So, and the 3 of them are roommates, but then all of a sudden students start acting weird and faculty starts acting weird, and because there's also a new teacher who is Miss Flapper, who's a dragon whisperer, they find out that she's a monster whisperer and she is brainwashing these kids. But then at the end of the book, they find the 3 of them inside end up stopping her. But then she claims that she was brainwashed too, but the 3 of them don't actually buy that. And in the next 3 books, they have to work together to find out who brainwashed Miss Flapper, if anyone. Turns out she didn't, but she was working with Ramses Denial, who is Cleo's dad, and Tabby, who is Torlight's guardian. And they end up, because there's even this whole thing where monsters started going missing, and they were blaming the normies, and they're trying to cut off monsters and normies, making monsters think that normies were even building walls to keep them away from the evil monsters or whatever. But they decided to go to the normie town and find out that that wasn't real, especially since the normie mayor was raised by monsters. He would never allow that. And they even got a video of him saying that none of this is happening and that they didn't kidnap any monsters, and they ended up finding the monsters that were kidnapped and finding out the truth about Miss Flapper, Francis Denial, and Tabby. So yeah, that's a fun little mystery aspect, and monsters galore, obviously. This one is a little bit more true to the Monster High movies, because, you know, Monster High is just, it's just following these three ghouls. And Sai, who isn't in the movies, he is a character that the author Giddy Danish Ferry created. But yeah, I absolutely love this. It's middle grade, but it's so good. The words are a bit bigger. There are some pictures. Well, there's pictures at the beginning of every chapter, as you can see, but then there's also other kind of pictures, like little tiny pictures like this, like right here, throughout the pages. So definitely middle grade, but so amazing. See? And I absolutely love it. So I highly recommend if you're a fan of Monster High like I am. And that's all for this video. Some awesome spooky reads for the rest of the month and for the rest of the year if you want, you know, all throughout fall if you want, who knows. But please like and subscribe and comment your favorite Halloween like books or with books with Halloween elements, and we'll chat below, and I'll talk to you guys later.